I never believed I could rise from basket poverty to becoming a thriving businessman. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung high, but the world felt darker than the shadows creeping around me. My hands shook as I clutched a crumpled dollar bill. That dollar was everything. Coffee shops, bright with hipster vibes, laughed at my tattered clothes. Their polished lives felt a million miles away that I was just a kid, scraping by. My mother worked 2 jobs, always exhausted but smiling. Her laughter echoed in our tiny apartment, binding our fractured reality together. My father? He was a ghost, a memory of promises broken. The streets whispered stories of dreams, while I had only faded dreams, a mix of hope and despair. Every night, I counted the days we could survive on the little we had, but one chilly evening, everything changed. An elderly lady, with wild hair and a knowing smile, stumbled into our lives. She clutched a box, warm light glimmering from within. "This is for you," she said with cracked lips. Inside lay strange trinkets that felt heavy with secrets. I didn't understand then, but their weight pressed on my heart like destiny. The air crackled with energy, and I felt its emething profound. Weeks passed. Those trinkets became my obsession. I transformed scraps into shining dreams. But whispers grew louder. People looked at me with narrowed eyes, some offering help, some offering judgment. I felt the tightening in my chest each time I faced the world. Could I actually carve a path through this chaos? Suspense thickened like fog. Some saw me as a venture, others, a threat. My little victories sparked envy, awakening dragons in the dark corners of my life. As business boomed, so did the tension. And just when it seemed like everything was going to fall apart again, I stumbled upon something astonishing, something linking me to that enigmatic lady and her strange gifts that I felt my heart race. Would this revelation push me forward or pull me back into the depths of despair? I held the trinket tightly in my palm, feeling its warmth seep into my skin. What truths lay hidden beneath its surface? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The weeks following my discovery of the trinket felt like walking a tightrope. One wrong step and I could plunge into the depths of uncertainty again. I could barely concentrate during the day. The weight of the trinket in my pocket seemed to pulse with potential yet tethered me to old fears. Each time I reached for it, I was flooded with memories of that day when the old lady had emerged from the shadows, and with her, a chance to break free from the cycle of survival. The neighborhood around me, once filled with the laughter of children and the warm glow of community, began to feel hostile. The eyes of my peers bore into me, twisting admiration into something far more sinister. How did he suddenly get so lucky? I overheard someone say during yet another late-night brainstorming session with my 2 closest friends, Sam and Elena. "You have to be careful," Sam warned, his eyes darting. "People are starting to question how you've risen so fast. Success can attract some dangerous attention." His voice was low, almost a whisper, but the tension seeped into the corners of the room. Elena, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood. "You're not like them, Jordan. Keep your head down, stay grounded. The universe has put you on this path for a reason." But as reassuring as her words were, I could feel the trepidation gnawing at my core. Beneath their encouragement lay a fear that they couldn't quite articulate. What if this trinket brought more harm than good? That same night, insomnia wrapped around me like an unwelcome blanket. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by murky visions of disappointment and betrayal. Somewhere in the clarity of darkness, I caught the soft whispers of my mother's laughter echoing through my mind. Her resilience had always amazed me, her determination a guiding star amid chaos. Maybe if I channeled her strength, I could face whatever storm was brewing outside. Over the next few days, I made an effort to connect with the old lady again. Every corner of the food market felt like a pivotal setting of our fleeting encounter. I spoke to vendors, hoping someone had seen her. But weeks passed, her absence grew heavier, and my worries blossomed like weeds. Had she really appeared and delivered the pieces of my destiny, or had I conjured her, a figment of my broken spirit? Then one afternoon, as I rummaged through the remnants of a local thrift shop, something unexpected happened. An elderly man approached me, his eyes flickering with recognition. "Your mother did wonders for our neighborhood," he said softly. "Used to bring food to the people who didn't have any. Taught me the meaning of kindness when I didn't believe it existed." Tears prickled my eyes as I thought of my mother, and for an instant, I felt her presence nearby. "Can you tell me about her?" I asked, my voice barely audible. The man shared stories of her generosity and love, and how it inspired those around her. For the first time in weeks, warmth wrapped around me like a precious cloak. This act of kindness ignited something in my chest, a reminder that even in moments of doubt, dropping a seed of kindness could bloom hope in the darkest places. But just as my heart began to mend, another layer of tension unfolded. Late one night, as I returned from a late meeting, I noticed a strange figure lingering near my apartment. They seemed to be watching, eyes heavy like clouds before a downpour. The unease crawled along my spine. I had crossed an invisible line, and the shadows I had been running from were now closing in. That I stepped into the light, determined to confront the intruder, but the figure melted into the night, leaving behind nothing but a sharp breath of fear. My heart raced. Who were they? What did they want from me? The trinket felt unbearably hot against my skin. With every passing moment, the stakes were rising. My dreams were intertwined with threads of danger, and what I once saw as a blessing now loomed as a possible curse. Somehow, I had become a target, and all I could do was clutch the trinket and whisper a silent vow to face whatever was coming. Next as the days dragged on, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. With every piece of success I achieved, I felt the world around me thrumming with tension. Was I strong enough to survive this new reality, or was I teetering on the edge, waiting for the swirl of chaos to pull me in? And then, in a moment that seemed plucked from my deepest fears, an urgent knock came at my door late one evening, the kind that could change everything. My heart sank as I stood frozen, uncertainty wrapping around me, preparing me for whatever lay on the other side. Would it be help, or would it be the reckoning I had dreaded? The knock reverberated in my chest like a drum, steady and ominous. My breath caught in my throat as I reached for the doorknob, my heart hammering with both fear and a flickering sliver of hope. Who could it be at this hour? I hesitated, memories of the stranger from the night before flooding my mind, ghostly warnings whispering in the air. With a trembling hand, I opened the door a crack, peering through the gap into the dim hallway. There stood a woman, her features obscured by shadows. She was older, a face etched with lines that spoke of a lifetime of resilience. As our eyes met, something stirred within me, a strange familiarity that sent my pulse racing higher. "Are you Jordan?" she asked gently, her voice a soothing contrast to the tempest brewing inside me. "Yes," I managed to reply, my voice barely above a whisper. "That I am Clara," she introduced herself, stepping forward into the soft glow of the hallway light. "I knew your mother very well." Joy and dread collided within me. "What do you know about her?" I demanded more than asked, my yearning for connection twisted with the heavy weight of vulnerability, enough to know she had an enormous heart, one that inspired all of us in the community. "I've come to talk to you about something important," Clara said, her eyes holding mine with a fierce intensity. "It's about the trinket you carried." I felt a shiver race down my spine, as if she could see the pulse of raw power emanating from it. "You know about the trinket? Your mother spoke of it long ago. She believed, almost fervently, that it carried a promise. A promise of hope and healing, not just for you, but for all those whose lives you could touch," she explained, her voice steady and reassuring. That my mind reeled at the implications. It was profound, yet the whispers of doubt tugged at the edge of my resolve. "But I'm afraid I'm not worthy," I confessed, my chest tightening. I'm being watched, and with every step I take toward success, I feel like I'm inviting danger." Clara's expression softened. "The world can often feel dark and unwelcoming, but you carry within you the legacy of your mother, her kindness, her belief in the potential of others. You're not just pursuing wealth, your journey can uplift those who feel powerless, just as she did. That trinket is a channel for that purpose." As she spoke, the shadows of doubt that had clung to me began to recede, replaced by something warmer, a budding sense of responsibility. Could I truly be a beacon? The notion felt almost too grand, but there was something about Clara's presence that ignited a flicker of belief deep within. "Why now?" I questioned, trying to anchor myself in the moment. "Why come looking for me?" "Because I see the struggles you're facing and the isolation that comes with success. There are others who want to help you, but they're hesitant, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves," she replied, her voice imbued with sincerity. "And more importantly, I came to warn you, a storm is brewing, and you must be ready to face it." Her words hung between us, steeped in the weight of the world. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the building, and my stomach dropped. Without thinking, I turned to rush toward the sound, but Clara's strong hand gently gripped my arm. "No. Stay close." Moments later, the cacophony of footsteps filled the air, and shadows darted past the narrow window. I could feel my heart racing, adrenaline pumping through my veins as the imminent danger crashed into my reality like a rogue wave. "Jordan, listen to me," Clara insisted, her voice urgent. "There's a group that wants what you possess. They are not just after the trinket, they want to unravel the very foundations of what your mother started. You must protect it, and yourself. Trust in your instinct." Just as she spoke, the door behind me buckled under the force of relentless pounding, the hinges creaking like a warning siren screeching through the trailer of a horror film. Time seemed to slow, her words echoing in my mind, weaving into the fabric of the moment as I stood at the crossroads of fear and courage. That I stole a glance at Clara. Her eyes shone with unwavering determination. "Are you ready to fight for what's right?" I didn't know what the answer would mean, but deep down, I felt the call to rise against the tide of darkness curling around me. Before I could respond, the door shattered inward, splintering wood exploding in all directions, and amidst the chaos stood the figure I had seen before, flanked by two others, faces hardened with ambition and malice. My heart dropped into the pit of my stomach as I realized this was the reckoning, the moment I had dreaded. As Clara deftly pushed me to the side, I stumbled back, every instinct urging me to flee. But deep inside, I knew this was my fight, my moment to harness the legacy that flickered within the trinket, glowing fervently in my pocket as if it sensed the brewing storm. At that moment, standing in the whirlpool of danger, I felt a surge of defiance rise within me, igniting my resolve to stand tall against whatever threat came my way, even amid the shadows that loomed to consume me whole. I was not just Jordan anymore, the boy who carried the weight of indecision. I was a storm gathering strength, ready to confront the tempest, even if the outcome was uncertain. And then, as if the universe conspired to heighten the intensity, a chilling voice cut through the chaos. "Let's see what you're really made of, Jordan." My breath caught. This was just the beginning, and as the world spiraled into that moment of chaos, the future lay suspended on the precipice of a choice yet to be made, leaving me breathless with the uncertainty that loomed ahead. The air crackled with tension as the door swung open, revealing three figures poised to pounce. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, but Clara's steady presence anchored me. "You need to stay focused," she whispered, her voice a calm current amidst the storm. "Let them underestimate you." The leading man, his slick back hair shining under the dim light, stepped forward. "Jordan," he sneered, his eyes glinting with a predatory intensity, "your mother's legacy ends tonight." That I stood frozen, the weight of his words sinking deep into my chest like lead. It was not merely a threat, it was a promise, and I could feel the chill of despair creeping into my heart. My hands trembled as I felt the trinket, the symbol of hope, pressed against my skin, glowing with an aerial warmth that belied the darkness encroaching around me. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice cracking under the pressure as I masked my fear with indignation. "What do you want from me?" "Everything your mother worked to build, her influence, her connections." He glanced around the room, as if the walls themselves bore witness to a legacy he was determined to dismantle. And that little trinket, he continued, a menacing edge sharpening his words, is just a shiny distraction. What really matters is the power it represents. And it will be mine. No, Clara said firmly, stepping protectively in front of me, her resolve like a fortress. It belongs to Jordan now. He has the right to decide how to wield that power. A murmur rippled among the men. The one on the left, with a face marked by past skirmishes, chuckled darkly. You think he can, and he will. Clara's voice rang out, surprising even me with its strength. He carries more within him than you realize. A flicker of determination lit inside me, rising defiantly against the swirling despair. Clara was right, I had to stand for something, to protect the legacy that was no longer just my mother's, but mine to define. The fire of her belief in me ignited something deep, a burgeoning courage I had not realized existed. Leave. I shouted. The word felt foreign on my tongue, but I pressed on. You think you can frighten me? This isn't just about a trinket or power, it's about love. It's about my mother's dreams. And you won't take them from me. The man's laughter sliced through the air. You really believe yourself worthy of that dream? Look at you standing there like a frightened child. You don't think a mere trinket can protect you? No, it's not the trinket, I said, the strength in my voice surprising even myself. It's what it represents. I am not afraid of you. I will protect what's left of my mother's legacy even if I have to do it alone. The room seemed to dim as his face twisted in a smirk, conjuring shadows that danced against the walls. If you truly think you can stand against us, I'll enjoy watching you try. But remember, every battle comes with a cost. With that, they surged forward, but it was Clara's quick thinking that bought me the precious moment I needed. She threw a vase from the table, shattering it against the wall and causing a distraction that sent the men off balance. Back to the door, she urged, her eyes stern and fierce. As I stumbled backward, adrenaline igniting every nerve, I felt the weight of my choices crashing down on me. Clara's courage pierced the haze of fear, drawing me toward the only escape, my own will. The trinket pulsed against my side, and I grasped it tightly, searching for its essence, feeling instead the pulse of my own resolve. Jordan. Clara shouted, pulling me back as the men regrouped. We need to get somewhere safe. You must focus. My heart raced as we dashed toward the hallway, the men regrouping, their footsteps echoing ominously behind us. I caught a glimpse of them, their shadows stretching menacingly, and a desperate thought flickered across my mind. What if I couldn't escape? What if they succeeded in silencing the legacy I had just begun to understand? Before I could voice these thoughts, Clara pressed something into my palm. A small, folded piece of paper. This is important. When the time is right, it will guide you, she urged, pushing me forward with urgency. Keep it close. I nodded, tucking it into my pocket as we sped further down the dim corridor, adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. I could feel the walls closing in, the danger looming closer with every step. But there was a flicker of hope shining amidst the chaos, elicited by Clara's unwavering belief in me, propelling me forward. Each beat of my heart echoed with the resilience I had yet to fully embrace. As we reached the end of the hallway, just as I turned to face Clara, a deafening crash erupted behind us, followed by screams and curses that sent jolts of fear into my heart. I didn't have time to process what had just happened. But as I looked back toward the doorway, the urgency of the moment looming over us, one final scream pierced through the chaos. Jordan. You can't run from your destiny. And with that haunting declaration echoing in my ears, I felt the cold grip of fate close around me, leaving me standing on the precipice of uncertainty, a faint glimmer of hope flickering against the encroaching darkness. The air was thick with the smell of dust and fear, swirling around me like a storm caught in a bottle. Clara's grip on my arm as we hurried down the fire escape felt like the only anchor in a world rapidly spiraling out of control. We stumbled into the cool night air, the moon a silent witness to our flight. But my thoughts lingered on the chaos we'd barely escaped, the haunting echo of the man's words still ringing in my mind. Jordan. You can't run from your destiny. What did that even mean? My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to decipher the weight of his declaration. I felt the crumpled piece of paper Clara had given me burning a hole in my pocket, a potential key to understanding the unknowns that surrounded me. But there was no time to focus on that now. My survival took precedence over deciphering cryptic messages that we turned a sharp corner and skidded to a stop. Clara, breathing heavily, scanned the darkened street, her eyes darting for signs of our pursuers. I caught my breath, trying to ground myself in the chaos. It felt as if the world had flipped upside down, the very ground beneath me eroding away, leaving a chasm of uncertainty instead. "Clara," I finally managed, my voice a tremor against the stillness of the night. "What do we do now? They'll come for us. I can't just run forever." Clara exhaled slowly, her gaze softened momentarily. "We don't have to run," she replied, her voice steadying, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. "Well, make a plan. Well, find a way to fight back. You're stronger than you think, Jordan." The warmth of her belief in me was both a balm and a weight. I wanted to believe it, wanted to harness some semblance of strength from her words, but fear clung to the corners of my mind like a thief in the night, whispering doubts I could hardly silence. But what if I fail? What if I can't do this? My hands balled into fists, the trembling returning, fueled by uncertainty. Memories of my mother, her warmth, her laughter flashed through my mind, bringing with them a sharp pang of loss. It felt like a betrayal to even consider abandoning her legacy just when I was beginning to understand it. Clara stepped closer, bringing her hands to my shoulders, her grip fierce yet reassuring. "You won't fail. Remember what you said back there. It's not about the trinket or the power, it's about love and dreams. Yours just happen to be bigger now." Her gaze met mine, unwavering and fierce, and within it, I found a flicker of hope ignited anew. "Okay," I breathed, nodding slowly. "What's the plan?" Just as I began to feel a spark of resolve rising, a sudden noise shattered our fragile momentum. A rustle in the alley just beyond our line of sight. Clara and I froze, our hearts racing in unison, silent pleas weaving through the darkness. Out from the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in a long trench coat, face obscured by the collar pulled up high. My stomach twisted in knots, fear crashing like waves against the safety Clara had just painted. "Run," I whispered, urgency flooding my words, but the figure raised a gloved hand, halting our retreat. "That I am not here to hurt you," a voice rang out, smooth and comforting amidst the chaos. "At least not unless you choose the wrong path." Clara and I exchanged wary glances, confusion coating our resolve. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping slightly in front of her, my protective instinct surging despite my uncertainty. "That I am someone who believes in your mother's legacy," the figure answered, and as they took a step forward, the moonlight momentarily illuminated their face. Recognition struck with the force of a lightning bolt. It was a woman, one I had seen in the background of my mother's old photographs, always standing by her side during moments of triumph, a woman of influence in her own right. "Miss Anderson," I murmured, realization dawning. "You were part of her circle, you knew her personally." "Indeed," she replied, her eyes reflecting a depth of wisdom and sorrow. "And now I am here because the men you ran from aim to use you as a pawn in a game much larger than you know. They want to erase everything your mother built. Everything she stood for." My heart raced, and the weight of the past pressed in around me. "What do you want from me?" I struggled to keep my voice steady, the implications swirling like leaves caught in a cyclone. "To help you fight," she said simply. I could see the resolve etched onto her features. It mirrored Clara's belief, a lifeline thrown in an ocean of despair. "You have to understand, Jordan. While those men seek to destroy your path, they will underestimate you. But you must tap into what lies within. The trinket you carry is not just a symbol, it is the last remnant of a coalition of strength and promise your mother believed in." "What do you mean?" I pressed, urgency igniting my curiosity. She stepped closer, her voice dipping to a whisper that felt like the gentle brush of a feather, intimate yet powerful. "Inside that trinket lies an ancient emblem. It marks you as the descendant of the founding members of a secret society meant to safeguard legacy and power. Your choice now defines the course of that legacy." A chill rushed over me, my blood ran cold. "You're telling me all this is real?" "Yes." Her eyes bore into mine, and I could feel the weight of everything she didn't say hanging heavy in the air between us. To own your mother's legacy means embracing it fully, even the shadows that surround it. Before I could respond, Clara squeezed my hand, grounding me as fear tangled with the glimmer of something deeper, an awakening sense of purpose. Both of you must decide quickly, Miss Anderson continued, her urgency palpable. If you choose to accept this fight, we must gather allies and prepare. The time is short, and once you awaken to your destiny, there's no turning back. The enormity of the moment swept over me, potential thrumming like a heartbeat in the air. I felt my mother watching, her fierce spirit surrounding me, and with it came clarity. I couldn't run. I wouldn't. But just as I prepared to make a choice, a siren wailed in the distance, growing louder, a stark reminder that the men we had just escaped would soon be hunting us again. Jordan! Clara exclaimed, pulling me closer as we backed away from the impending danger. The stakes had just grown impossibly high. What do we do? A visceral fear grabbed my throat, but beneath it all, a resolute fire ignited in my chest, determination intertwined with terror. I could not shrink away. My mother had entrusted me with her dreams. As the sirens drew near, I gripped Clara's hand tightly, my voice raw with emphasis. We fight. Together. And just as I uttered the words, the ground trembled beneath us, threatening to swallow the very choices that lay before me, leaving just one confusing question hanging in the smoky air: how could I rise from the ashes of poverty and despair, to become a thriving beacon of hope in a world strife with destruction? The battles loomed closer, and destiny was beckoning. As I clutched Clara's hand, the air buzzed with tension, a palpable mixture of fear and purpose swirling around us. The sirens echoed through the empty streets, a relentless reminder that we had been thrust into a struggle far greater than ourselves. My heart raced as I grappled with the weight of Miss Anderson's words. Together, I repeated, feeling the resolve blossom within me. But as the sirens approached, a disconcerting thought began to gnaw at the edges of my confidence. Did I really have what it takes to step into my mother's light? Could I harness the legacy she had left behind? Where do we even start? Clara's voice cracked the veil of uncertainty hanging over us. I turned to her, her fear mirrored in the depths of my own. We need to find the allies she mentioned, I said, shifting into a mindset that felt almost foreign yet exhilarating. We have to understand what this trinket truly means before we can make a move. Miss Anderson nodded, her eyes unwavering. There are individuals who once fought alongside your mother, protectors of the legacy. They will help you unlock your potential and prepare you for what lies ahead. But you must act swiftly. Her words, the weight of the trinket in my pocket surged, reminding me it was more than an object, it was a symbol of a battle yet to come. My thoughts flew back to the man's ominous warning, the words destiny and fight echoing ominously in my mind. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A group of shadows emerged from the alley just a few paces away, their figures beginning to take shape. My stomach sank when the first glint of metal clashed against the moonlight, the flash of knives, sinister reminders of the threat pursuing us. Run! I shouted, pulling Clara with me as we dove down a narrow side street, my pulse thundering in my ears while Miss Anderson followed closely behind. The chase had begun anew, the fear morphing into a fierce determination. With each step, I felt the weight of my mother's legacy pushing me forward. I couldn't let her down, and I wouldn't let Clara down either. She had chosen to stand by me, and that bond sparked a resilience I didn't know I had. Over there. Clara pointed frantically to a dimly lit door at the end of the alley, a possible sanctuary. I sprinted towards it, heart pounding with the fear of failure and the hope that we might find respite. As we reached the door, Clara and I pulled it open simultaneously, stepping into a dimly lit room. The faint scent of old wood and something sweet chocolate met us as I glanced around. A giant map adorned the wall, littered with photographs and notes usefully tacked up like a web of lives intertwined. But our moment of solace was short-lived. The clamor of footsteps grew louder behind us, punctuated by urgent whispers. They went this way. A voice called, sending a chill spiraling down my spine. Quick! Miss Anderson urged, scanning the room. We don't have much time. We need to cover our tracks. I stared at the map, a rush of ideas flooding my mind. In that moment, I remembered a childhood story my mother used to tell about a secret passage used by her group during dark times, a hidden route that led to a warehouse, a safe haven for those fighting for their cause. Is there a secret passage? I blurted out, my heart thumping wildly as I traced the outline of the map with my finger. I suddenly zeroed in on a spot marked by a faded X, hope radiating from the possibility it held. Yes. It's an old storage tunnel. Miss Anderson gasped, her eyes alight with recognition. But we must move quickly, lead the way, I breathed, my heart surging as I took charge. A new resolve washed over me. The weight of my mother's legacy now felt like a mantle I could wear rather than a burden pulling me down. Clara, with wide eyes, followed closely as we navigated between stacks of ancient crates and hidden shelves. The atmosphere shifted, it was no longer merely a flight from danger, it had become a mission to reclaim my mother's dreams. We found a dusty door at the back, hidden well behind a mountain of crates. With trembling hands, I pushed it open, eliciting a whimpering groan from the ancient hinges. The tunnel loomed before us, dark yet promising, the dank air mingling with a sense of eternity. With a shared glance of solidarity, we stepped into the unknown. But as we moved deeper, a heavy silence engulfed us, the dim glow of our phones barely illuminating the rough walls. I heard Clara whisper a prayer, a silent plea for protection, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of significance in this moment. Suddenly, we stumbled upon an opening, a concealed alcove that revealed shimmering light filtering through cracks in the walls. I approached cautiously, my heart in my throat, as the beams exposed the remnants of what appeared to be an underground meeting room, abandoned but not entirely forgotten. This is it, I murmured, awestruck by the artifacts left behind, the remnants of those who once fought. Old banners, crates filled with tattered documents, and photographs capturing moments of unity and strength. The ghost of my mother felt closer than ever. This is a sanctuary, Clara breathed, her fingers grazing over a frayed banner that read, "For love and legacy." But before I could ponder the depths of what lay before us, I suddenly felt a vibration in my pocket, the trinket as if it were alive. I reached for it, pulling it out just as a sullen realization crept in. It was glowing faintly. What is it? Clara asked, stepping back at the sight that I glanced at Miss Anderson, who looked equally stunned. "You don't know. It feels important." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the tunnel entrance, a reminder that our pursuers had not given up the chase. Deep breaths. I needed to think. The time for hesitation had long passed. The momentum of this moment was a baptism by fire, a reckoning to claim all that was owed. I held the trinket high, an act of affirmation. "This represents hope," I declared, my voice steady against the rising fear. "It's time for us to own this legacy." But just as that realization sank in, I was met with the unexpected sound of footsteps echoing from within the tunnel. A shadowy figure cloaked in darkness emerged, and I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. "Jordan," the figure called softly. "You have no idea the darkness that surrounds your destiny." And in that instant, the weight of my mother's past, my present fears, and the future I was yet to grasp collided, leaving me teetering on the brink of realization. Fate had arrived, and with it, challenges I hadn't even begun to comprehend. The figure's voice cut through the air, heavy with foreboding, and I felt the flush of adrenaline surge through my body. "Who are you?" I stammered, my muscles tensing, ready to fight or flee. "Someone who has been watching you," the figure replied, stepping into the dim light. The shadows receded, revealing a familiar face, a face I thought I had only seen in photographs, a ghost of my past. It was Eric, my mother's old ally, someone she had trusted implicitly. A chilling mixture of confusion and longing washed over me, nearly overwhelming. "Eric?" I whispered, incredulity lacing my voice. "You're alive?" I thought I could barely complete the thought, the shock overwhelming my emotions. "That I know what you thought," he replied, his gaze piercing through the dim hushed remnants of the meeting room. "But there are bigger forces at play than you realize. I've been following your journey, waiting for the right moment to reveal myself." Clara's expression shifted from fear to tentative hope, and I felt an unexpected swell of warmth at the sight of an ally. Eric stepped closer, and the air shimmered with unspoken history between us. Your mother had secrets, Jordan, secrets that could turn the tide against those who hunt you. What do you mean? I demanded, my heart pounding as time pressed on mercilessly. What secrets? I don't have time for games, every moment counts, Eric said, urgency threading through his voice. Your mother entrusted me with her plans before she disappeared. That trinket you carry isn't just a relic, it's a key to her past and your future. It was all so surreal. I looked at the trinket, and for the first time, the tiny carvings and glowing aura felt like a puzzle rather than a mere token. What does it unlock? I pressed. The ambiguity stoked my unease, but a flicker of hope danced in my chest. It's tied to the sanctuary. He gestured towards the remnants around us, to the old banners and faded photographs. This place was designed not just as a refuge, but as a command center for when the battles came. It holds the possibility of uniting others like you. Others? Clara questioned, taking a step forward, her voice tinged with disbelief and excitement simultaneously. You mean the protectors? Yes, those who fought alongside your mother, standing against the oppression that now looms like an ominous cloud. Eric's expression grew grave. But it's not just about the fight, it's about rallying those who still believe in the cause. Time is running out. Once they find us, it will be too late. A chill swept through me at the urgency in his voice. The shadows from the tunnel began to encroach, the distant sounds of pursuit inching closer and closer. Anxiety coiled tightly around my chest as the reality of our situation set in. What do you need me to do? I found myself asking, determination cutting through the haze of fear. It was a question not just for Eric but for myself, a commitment to finally step into my mother's legacy wholeheartedly. Eric's eyes sparkled with wisdom, fold lines deepening as he nodded in respect. You must harness the trinket's power to call out to them. Focus on what you want it to reveal, the truth, the hidden past. Allow it to lead you to allies. It won't be easy, darkness will fight back, and doubt will seep into your resolve. Before I could respond, a loud thud echoed through the tunnel. Our attackers were closing in. The marionette strings of destiny had begun to weave a pattern that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Now. We don't have time, Eric urged, urgency transforming into action. Use the trinket to reveal what's hidden. In the heat of the moment, I held the trinket close to my heart, closing my eyes to shut out the chaos unfolding around us. The warmth of hope surged through me as I tuned my thoughts to the whispers of my mother's spirit, to the love and longing that had guided all our paths. Show me, I implored softly, not just to the trinket but to the universe itself. Show me how to find them. The warmth intensified, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The symbols began to glow, illuminating the room around us, and an ethereal blue light erupted from the center. I felt my lungs constrict, the air charged with possibility as a flickering silhouette appeared on the faded maps around us, coalescing into figures of strength and determination. But before I could absorb the magnitude of what was transpiring, the shadowy figures from the tunnel rushed forward, relentless and voracious. The once dim space turned into a frenzied curtain of chaos as Eric stepped forward, blocking the entrance with a fierce resolve. Go! He shouted over the roar of footsteps. I'll hold them back. Find the allies, Jordan, and don't look back. Panic gripped me. Cold fear clawed at my insides as Clara seized my arm, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief. We can't leave him, he's sacrificing himself for us. I yelled back, but every fiber of my being screamed against abandoning him. But in that moment, the sanctuary was at risk, and Eric's plea resonated deep within my bones. Trust him. I choked out, as Clara reluctantly nodded, understanding the gravity of the choice laid before us. The trinket pulsed with urgency, urging me towards the exit, dragging us both forward as I grabbed Clara's hand, adrenaline fueling our flight. As we slipped out through the tunnel, I could barely process the scene behind us, cloaked figures clashing against Eric's valiant defenses. A falling stone collided with the ground, sending dust swirling into the air, lending a haunting atmosphere to the moment. Just before we fully emerged, I turned, one last glimpse at the brave heart holding off the encroaching dark, and whispered a silent prayer, a promise to honor his sacrifice. But then reality crashed over me, a sharp breath of raw terror as the thought registered in my mind. What if we weren't fast enough? Would we make it to my mother's allies in time? Would Eric's stand even matter if the darkness consumed us? The fierce urgency felt like wildfire inside me because I knew in that moment that the battle was just beginning, and my heart bore the weight of destiny before me. As Clara and I raced away from the sanctuary, hand in hand, the voice of the shadowy figure echoed ominously in my mind, its words a testament to the fight yet to come. You have no idea the darkness that surrounds your destiny. The outside world felt jarringly bright after the shadows of the sanctuary. The dimness that had offered cover now seemed like a faded memory, replaced by the harsh reality of a sun hanging high, indifferent to the turmoil we had just escaped. The dissonance between the fear clinging to us and the vibrant day left me disoriented. I could still hear the muffled chaos behind us, echoing with Eric's cries, the impossible task of his stand forced into juxtaposition against the clarity of the day. Jordan, we need to keep moving, Clara urged, her grip on my hand tightening, urgency etching lines of fear on her young face. The innocence that had once colored her eyes was now tainted by the grim reality of danger and loss. I nodded, despite the swirling emotions threatening to engulf me: confusion, anger, and an unyielding resolve. The streets were a cacophony of life, blissfully unaware of the horrors lurking just below the surface. I never realized how bustling the city could be until this very moment, the people rushing by, laughter dancing on the air like a cruel mockery of our plight. It was as if life continued trying to reassure us that things were normal, even as I felt every bit of that normality fracture beneath the weight of our shared terror. That we darted down alleyways and side streets, the trinket pulsing lightly against my chest as if urging me to remember the mission now more than ever: to find the others, the allies of my mother, those who could help us turn the tide. But each step forward felt heavier, burdened with the reality that Eric was behind us, risking everything for our chances of survival. Do you think he'll be okay? Clara whispered, halting us for a moment behind a dumpster as we drew our breaths. The genuine fear in her eyes mirrored the tumult raging within me. I hesitated, fingers curling around the trinket, the smooth surface grounding me in the chaos swirling beyond our hiding spot. That I don't know, I replied, forcing myself to sound confident. All we can do is honor what he did for us. We have to believe he'll find a way. Inwardly, I cursed the frustration of my helplessness. Each word tasted like ash in my mouth, and our reality loomed impossible. After a moment of silence, I heard Clara sniffle softly, the veneer of bravery cracking. I turned to her, and our eyes locked. We can't let him down, Jordan, she said, determination breaking through a mask of sorrow. We must find them. First, we need to find a place to regroup and think, I replied, composing myself. I scanned our surroundings, searching for any signs of familiarity. The city felt like a maze of uncertainty, but I had to rely on instinct, on the fragments my mother had shared with me over the years. Follow me, I said, pulling her along, and we navigated through a series of twists and turns that led us into an obscure corner shop, tucked between towering buildings. The dusty glass door creaked as we entered, alerting the shopkeeper behind the counter, a woman whose sharp gaze flickered between suspicion and concern. Are you lost? She asked, her tone brisk but softened by a hint of curiosity. We need help, I blurted out, the weight of desperation in my voice. We're being hunted. The woman's expression didn't change, yet a glimmer of comprehension sparked in her eyes, an invitation to the unspoken truth that lingered between us. You're not the first, she murmured, leaning closer, tone dropping to a whisper. You're far from alone, but you need to be cautious. I could sense Clara's need for reassurance, and the woman's words seemed to kindle the flickering ember of hope within me. Do you know the protectors? Her gaze shifted toward the back of the shop, nodding subtly as she gestured for us to follow. We descended into a dimly lit room cluttered with ancient maps and artifacts, the air thick with the scent of musty history. It felt like stepping into a relic from a different era, a sanctuary of knowledge hidden from the chaos outside. Sit, she directed, pulling out worn chairs that creaked under the weight of countless stories. You need to gather your thoughts. Figure out your next move. Your mother spoke highly of her allies and their courage. I swallowed hard, battling the storm of emotions threatening to consume me. What do you know about her? The woman paused, choosing her words carefully. I knew her well. The fight she started is far from over. But there are whispers, fragments of a darkness rising, greater than you comprehend. What do you mean? I pressed, heart racing. What's coming? The woman's expression hardened as she locked eyes with me. They're watching, tracking you, Jordan. It's not just your mother's past that is at stake, it's your future. And that trinket, it's more than a key, it's a beacon. It can summon both allies and foes. A sickening knot twisted in my stomach. So, we have to be precise. We can't draw the wrong kind of attention. Yes, she nodded. The protectors who oppose the darkness are wary. Trust is hard-earned, especially when betrayal runs deep. You must lead them if you can find them, but know this. The choice you make now could spark both rebellion and ruin. As her words settled over us, a sudden rush of wind swept through the open window, causing the ancient maps to flutter like frightened birds. That was when the realization struck me: here could be no turning back. There were choices laid before us that would require sacrifices beyond my understanding. And why thoughts collided with a horrifying clarity, the urgency to act clashing against the reality of what we faced. But as I looked at Clara, her eyes ignited with determinism, an unexpected warmth filled my chest. Perhaps there was still a chance, a flicker of hope that required only the bravest of hearts to fan into a flame. Before I could speak again, the shopkeeper leaned in, her voice grave. They're coming. You must go now, and you need to be prepared for what lies ahead. Gripping Clara's hand tightly, I felt a surge of courage bloom within me. Let's do this, I whispered, ready to navigate the labyrinth of my destiny, even as the shadows gathered around us, darker than I ever imagined. But as we rushed out through the back door, the muffled sounds of footsteps echoed in the distance, not only the pursuers we were running from, but another presence, something lurking, waiting to reveal itself. And in that moment, before stepping back into the uncertain world, a chilling thought dawned on me: what if our enemies were already closer than we feared? What if they were already among us? The alley greeted us like a specter of uncertainty, shadows intertwining with the flickering light of a distant street lamp. I glanced back at the shopkeeper's door, half expecting to see her watching us, her sharp gaze now carrying the weight of God knows what insights about our fate. Clara squeezed my hand tighter as we plunged into the night, moving faster than we ever had before. Jordan, where do we go? She whispered, the worry thick in her voice. I don't know, I admitted, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. But we need to keep moving. If they're really among us, we can't stay in one place too long. That we darted through the crooked streets with nothing but our instincts guiding us. I pushed aside the turmoil coursing through me, focusing instead on the echoes of her question: what lay ahead? What dark figure stalked our journey, looming close enough to snuff out the flicker of hope we had found? As we rounded a corner, the glimmer of a small bistro caught my attention, its wealthy patrons oblivious to the horrors that pulsated outside its walls. The laughter floated into the cold night air, stark and surreal. A pang of envy settled deep in my gut. Those people had no idea what it was like to be hunted, the threat hanging in the air like a noose tightening with every breath. Clara tugged at my sleeve, breaking my reverie. Maybe we can ask for help. They might know something about the protectors. I hesitated, my instinct screaming that safety and comfort were seductive traps. But the desperation in her gaze urged me to consider another option. Okay. Let's just keep our eyes open. That we slipped inside the bistro, an explosion of warmth enveloping us. The clinking of glasses and the soft music created a cozy harmony that felt alien to our plight. The hostess, clad in a crisp uniform, raised an eyebrow as she caught sight of our disheveled appearance. Can I help you? We're just looking for some information, I stammered, shoving embarrassment down. The vulnerability was palpable. We were two lost souls adrift somewhere far from our home. The hostess crossed her arms, skepticism washing over her face. This isn't a place for kids. Maybe you should wait. Clara interrupted, her voice brightening with an unlikely energy. Please. We're looking for the protectors. Do you know them? A moment of silence suspended in the air, and the hostess' eyes narrowed, weighing our words. After what felt like an eternity, she leaned close, lowering her voice, her demeanor shifting. The protectors? You're not safe here. I felt my heart surge with hope and fear intertwined. What do you know? Let's just say there are some people in this city who hold influence. If you need to contact them, you might find someone at that old bookstore on Maple. But be careful. They won't trust you right away. As quickly as Shed opened up, she looked back at her patrons, her body stiffening as if reverting to her role. Now go. You shouldn't linger. Without waiting for another word, Clara and I slipped out into the night. The adrenaline coursed through me as I led her down the street toward the bookstore, the flickering streetlights guiding us through the darkness. But just as we were about to turn the corner, I froze, seeing a figure partially obscured by shadows, a man with a hat low over his eyes, standing beside a parked car. My heart raced, and I instinctively pulled Clara closer to me. Do you think he's looking for us? She breathed, terror creeping into her voice. That we can't know for sure, I whispered back. Stay close and keep moving. As we walked by with bated breath, the man turned slightly, his intense gaze on us now. I stumbled briefly, feeling an intense shiver run down my spine as he smiled a genuine, terrifying smile that didn't match the emotions swirling around us. But it was his eyes, icy and calculating, that made my blood run cold. We hurried our pace, and the moment we turned the corner, I exhaled, half relieved, half terrified. That was too close, I muttered, fear creeping back into my veins. Do you think he's working for them? Clara asked, her voice tinged with unease. That I shook my head, unwilling to admit the depth of that possibility. I don't know. But we can't stay in the open. As we threaded our path through the winding side streets, a sharp cry echoed behind USA's scream, breaking the stillness of the night. Jordan! What was that? Clara asked, her eyes wide. I turned to her, my heart pounding in rhythm with the fear gripping my throat. I don't know. We can't look back, we need to find the bookstore. Every footstep felt like a weight on my soul, the screams behind us mingling with the visions of what we had left behind. But the reality loomed ahead, a tangible threat, and the burdens of our choices pressing heavy on my chest. Finally, we reached the old bookstore, the sign barely hanging as if to signal a farewell to a bygone era. As we stepped inside, my heart clenched. The air was thick with dust, and the faint smell of paper might have evoked comfort if not for the urgency threatening to choke us. And then, amidst the shelves packed with secrets, an unexpected figure caught my eye, a woman in a long coat, flipping through the pages of a faded tome. Her presence starkly contrasted with the somber air. She looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to recognition in a heartbeat. I've been waiting, she said, her voice a soft melody amidst the heaviness of the room. Waiting for us? I asked, confusion tangled with desperation. For you and Clara, she replied, each word tightening the strings of fate around us. It seems you're already deep into the fray, but there's something you need to know. The darkness isn't just rising, it's already here. With those words, a tremor ran through me, and the implications rippled through the air. Was the man in the street the embodiment of that darkness, casting a net around us? Who sent you? I demanded, feeling the fight ignite within me as we stood on a tenuous precipice. But before she could answer, a door swung open behind us, ushering in an unexpected cold draft that stole away not only the warmth but perhaps our last shreds of safety. Clara gasped beside me, and there, silhouetted against the threshold, was the very man we had just escaped. Well, well. It looks like I found you at last, he declared, a sinister grin spreading across his face as he stepped forward into the light. Panic surged as I realized this was no mere chance encounter. We're standing at the very edge of confrontation. Would I make the right choice in this moment, or would the darkness consume us both? The world froze in an echo of dread, the sharpness of reality slicing through any semblance of comfort. The man stood before us, a harbinger of chaos, his grin twisted with sinister intent. I could feel the air thick with tension, an unspoken understanding that we had entered a battle far deeper than ourselves. Get away from her! I shouted, adrenaline igniting a fire within me, courage interlacing with fear. Clara stepped behind me, her soft presence anchoring my growing resolve. Ah, the brave little hero, he taunted, amusement dancing in his eyes. Do you really believe you can protect her? You sheltered by shadows your whole life are foolish enough to think you can stand against real power. I could feel the shadows curling around me, the oppressive weight of doubt clawing at my mind. But then I remembered Clara's determination, the shopkeeper's belief in us, and the legacy pulling at my heart. I'm not afraid of you or what you represent. You want to take everything from me, but my mother's legacy cannot be extinguished, his laughter echoed, a dissonant melody between contempt and amusement. Legacy? You think it was ever hers to give? She was merely a pawn in a game far more complex than your juvenile understanding allows. But she wasn't. I snapped, the words spilling out with the force of ancient truths. She was a beacon in the dark, a protector, and you will not erase what she built. I won't let you. With that, I felt a pulse from the trinket thrummed against my chest, resonating with an energy I hardly understood yet instinctively trusted. The light began to pulse gently, vibrant shades illuminating the dusty room, a quiet warmth radiating hope amidst the chilling confrontation. What is that? He hissed, his expression momentarily shifting from confidence to a flash of apprehension as he eyed the glowing artifact. Clara stepped closer, a newfound resolve glimmering in her gaze. It's more than you could ever comprehend. It's a connection to everything she fought for, and I believe it can unite those who share that same fire. Suddenly, the air around us shifted, a charged energy swirling, drawing the shadows closer, pulling them back as if the trinket recognized the plight of its bearer. I reached out, and Clara clasped my hand tightly. Together, we stood on the precipice of both fear and awakening. That I am not just the boy you think you know, I declared, my voice echoing with conviction. I am my mother's son, carrying her dreams within me to fight against the darkness and to gather the protectors. You may have power, but I have something far greater: unity among those who hunger for change. His face twisted in rage. You are nothing but an imprint of her failures. No one will come for you, you are alone in this. And just then, the light inside the trinket surged, flickering brightly, illuminating the dim corners of the room, as if responding to his threat. I felt every ounce of hope ignite from my heart to Clara's unwavering spirit as she pulled me closer, whispering, "Together, together," I echoed, heart racing, and suddenly, the shadows began to shift, swirling around the trinket like moths drawn to its flame. A connection formed in that shimmering space, a conduit of energy that felt like a rallying cry, a bond to those who needed to know they weren't alone either. You have dealt in darkness too long, I shouted as realization gripped me. You wish to drown me in fear and despair, but I know the truth. My mother's fight has only just begun. She was not alone then, and neither am I now. In that moment, beneath the oppressive sense of dread, something opened within me, a profound understanding that the essence of my mother's legacy was more powerful than I could have fathomed. The trinket glowed brighter, a beacon that rang with purpose, calling forth energy beyond my comprehension. The man stepped back, hesitating, disarmed not just by my words but by the palpable force that was colliding in the room. He shifted, glancing over his shoulder as if sensing something approaching, an uninvited darkness pushing against the very fabric of our newfound alliance. Do you hear that? Clara whispered, her eyes wide, and I nodded as the muffled sound grew louder. The door behind us swung open, and figures emerged from the shadows, faces I had only seen in faded photographs and memories shared through my mother's stories. Protectors of her legacy, allies drawn to the flickering light. The faces resolved into more than mere memories, they became righteous flames, warriors who believed in change and unity. Jordan. One called, "We heard your call. We are here." As they stepped forward, I felt the darkness shift against me as the weight of uncertainty clung heavily. You fool! The man bellowed, rage boiling to a frenzied pitch. You will never win this fight. But the essence of hope blazed within me, igniting the flame that sparked my mother's relentless spirit. I am not alone, I declared once more, the words surging like a battle cry.